There are celebrities who live behind walls so high that the world never truly gets to know them. And then there are rare individuals whose fame never manages to erase their humanity. When conversations about humility in Hollywood begin, one name appears again and again: Keanu Reeves. For decades, he has remained one of the most recognizable actors in the world. He has starred in blockbuster films, earned enormous success, and built a career most people can only dream about. Yet what fascinates fans the most is not simply his success on screen, but the quiet and surprisingly simple life he chooses to live away from cameras and red carpets. The more people learn about Keanu Reeves, the more unusual his story becomes. This is a man who could easily surround himself with luxury every moment of his life. Instead, stories constantly emerge of him riding public transportation, sitting alone in cafes, helping strangers quietly, or walking through cities without any attempt to attract attention. In a world where fame often creates distance between celebrities and ordinary people, Keanu Reeves somehow seems to move in the opposite direction, and maybe that is exactly why people admire him so deeply. Because in an era obsessed with image, status, and constant visibility, Keanu Reeves represents something increasingly rare: simplicity, sincerity, and emotional balance. To understand why he became this way, it is important to look far beyond Hollywood's success. Keanu Reeves did not grow up in stability or comfort. His childhood was marked by constant movement, family struggles, and uncertainty. He changed schools multiple times and experienced the kind of instability that forces a person to mature early. Life taught him that circumstances can change quickly and that nothing should ever be taken for granted. Perhaps those early experiences shaped his perspective forever. Long before fame arrived, people who knew him described him as quiet, thoughtful, and kind. He loved hockey and reportedly dreamed of becoming a professional player before acting entered his life. At that point, Hollywood fame was not part of the plan. But eventually, acting became his path. He started with small television roles and low-budget productions before slowly gaining attention. As opportunities increased, so did his reputation. Audiences connected with him because he felt authentic. Unlike many young actors trying desperately to become stars, Keanu often appeared calm and natural. Then came the role that changed everything: The Matrix. The film transformed modern action cinema and turned Keanu Reeves into a global superstar almost overnight. Suddenly, his face was everywhere: interviews, magazine covers, premieres, and international headlines. Fame reached a level few actors ever experience. But while many celebrities become more distant after achieving that kind of success, Keanu Reeves seemed to become even more grounded. Stories about his behavior began spreading everywhere. People noticed him giving up his seat on trains and buses. They noticed him speaking respectfully to crew members on movie sets. They noticed him quietly eating alone in parks or cafes without security creating chaos around him. Service workers, assistants, and staff members often described him as polite and approachable. What made these stories powerful was the fact that they rarely felt staged. There were no cameras carefully documenting his kindness. No dramatic public relations campaigns trying to manufacture an image. In fact, Keanu Reeves himself almost never talks publicly about these moments. That silence matters, because humility becomes far more meaningful when nobody is supposed to notice it. Over time, more stories surfaced from people who worked with him professionally. Crew members described him as generous and deeply respectful. According to several reports, he shared portions of his earnings with departments such as costume design and special effects because he believed filmmaking was always a collective effort. Whether every internet story is perfectly accurate or slightly exaggerated, one thing remains remarkably consistent: people who work with Keanu Reeves almost always describe him in the same way: calm, respectful, professional, kind. That consistency is extremely rare in Hollywood, but perhaps the deepest reason people connect emotionally with him has less to do with fame and more to do with pain. Behind the success lies a life shaped by personal tragedy and loss. Throughout the years, Keanu Reeves experienced several heartbreaking events involving people close to him. Yet instead of turning grief into spectacle, he handled it privately and quietly. That privacy became part of who he is. Rather than giving emotional interviews for attention or sympathy, he seemed to process suffering internally, and many fans believe those experiences gave him a deeper understanding of life and human emotion. When he occasionally speaks about loss, there is a calm honesty in his words. He does not pretend pain disappears easily. He does not speak like someone trying to sound inspirational. Instead, he sounds like a person who truly understands hardship. That emotional depth may explain why audiences see him differently from many other celebrities. He does not feel unreachable. He feels human. Ironically, that humanity may be exactly what made him even more iconic. Years later, Keanu Reeves surprised Hollywood once again with another career-defining success, John Wick. At a stage when many actors begin slowing down, he reinvented himself through one of the most successful action franchises of modern cinema. Audiences were fascinated not only by the films themselves, but also by the incredible discipline behind them. Training teams and stunt professionals spoke about his intense commitment during preparation. He trained for months, learned difficult choreography, practiced weapons handling, and approached every scene with professionalism and focus. Fans admired that dedication because it reflected something deeper than physical ability. It showed respect for craft. Even after becoming one of the highest paid actors in entertainment, Keanu Reeves continued living modestly compared to many celebrities. He rarely displayed extravagant wealth publicly and often appeared completely comfortable in ordinary situations. That contrast made the internet obsessed with him. People began calling him the internet's favorite celebrity. Videos of small acts of kindness spread rapidly online. Interviews gained millions of views because audiences appreciated how thoughtful and reflective he sounded. But the admiration lasted for one important reason: it never seemed forced. Keanu Reeves rarely behaves like someone carefully protecting a public image. In many cases, the most memorable moments involving him happened precisely because he seemed unaware anyone was paying attention. That authenticity became incredibly valuable in a cynical media culture where audiences are constantly exposed to manufactured personalities. What makes his story even more interesting is that humility does not mean he rejects success or ambition. He clearly values hard work, storytelling, artistic collaboration, and achievement, but he also appears deeply aware that fame alone cannot create happiness or fulfillment. That distinction matters. Many people spend their entire lives chasing recognition, believing success will solve loneliness or insecurity. Keanu Reeves achieved worldwide fame and still seemed drawn towards simple human experiences: conversation, friendship, creativity, peace, and connection. That realization changed how people viewed him. He was no longer admired only as an actor. He became admired as a person. Another fascinating part of his personality is how carefully he protects his privacy. Unlike many modern celebrities, he does not constantly broadcast every detail of his life online. He does not seem addicted to visibility or attention. In today's entertainment industry, that restraint feels almost revolutionary. Many celebrities are expected to transform every moment into content. Every meal becomes a photo, every opinion becomes a headline, and every interaction becomes branding. But Keanu Reeves appears comfortable allowing silence to exist, and silence creates mystery. The less he tries to convince people he is genuine, the more genuine he appears. There is also something powerful about the contrast between his on-screen and off-screen personality. In films, he often plays intense characters surrounded by violence, danger, and conflict. Off-screen, however, he consistently projects calmness and gentleness. That contrast surprises people, and maybe it reinforces an important truth: strength and kindness are not opposites. Some of the strongest people are also the most compassionate. Of course, no celebrity is exactly as the internet imagines them. Public perception can never fully capture a real human being, and stories can become exaggerated over time. But even with that understanding, the reputation surrounding Keanu Reeves has remained remarkably consistent for decades. Directors praise his professionalism. Coworkers praise his respectfulness, fans praise his kindness, and unlike many celebrity narratives that collapse under scrutiny, this one continues to endure. That kind of reputation cannot be completely manufactured. Eventually, behavior speaks louder than publicity. Perhaps that is the real reason people feel emotionally connected to Keanu Reeves. He reminds audiences that humility is still possible even after extraordinary success. He proves that fame does not always erase empathy, and that hardship does not always destroy compassion. In many ways, he became more than just an actor. He became a reminder that kindness still matters. A reminder that humility can survive in powerful places, and a reminder that sometimes the most unforgettable people are not the loudest people in the room. They are the ones who quietly treat others with dignity when nobody is watching. And maybe that is why the world continues to admire Keanu Reeves after all these years. Not because perfection is rare, but because genuine humanity is becoming harder to find.